Hey Tarot friends, it's Jade here with Tarot Your Truth, and I am here today with a VR to LadyKnight of Avalon for her tag that's been pretty popular lately called Shopping for Tarot. And this tag is all about celebrating our love for tarot, for different tarot decks. I know that off and on, my limited experience of less than a year, I've seen a lot of posts on Facebook and Instagram. Oh, how many tarot decks do you need? Why do you need more than one? You only need one. And it's really trying to shame people for having multiple tarot decks, which I think is totally ridiculous. But because you could apply that same thing to books, for example. How many books do you need? Why do you need more than one? No one would ever say that, right? No one would ever say that. You could have a library in your home, and people would be just awed and amazed by it. So I thought this was a fun VR to respond to. So there's 10 questions. The first question is, what was the last deck you bought and why that one? So the last deck I bought, I'm going to show it, and actually just so that you're not staring at nothing, I'll just do a quick walkthrough of this one. This is a very old deck, or it's been around for a long time. This is the Aquarian Tarot. You can see it came to me pretty beat up, which I'm not crazy about, but that's fine. I don't really care about the boxes anyways. I care about the contents, and they're all fine. So the Aquarian Tarot was the last deck I bought. This one here is, I guess this would be a 2006 version. Maybe the original was 1970 from US Games. I don't know if anyone else had that before, but these are the backs. I'm sure that you've all seen this. Sorry, I'm just going to adjust this slightly. Okay. Everyone and their mother has seen this deck. But I'm going to show it anyways. So this was the last one I bought. Why this one? I've just been doing a lot of reading, a lot of research, and I saw a lot of, well, there's quite a bit of information floating around about this deck, and I just, at first, when I first came across this one, I wasn't overawed by it. I really enjoyed the more flashy, colorful decks, other decks that are out there, like the Forest of Enchantment and Tarot de la Nuit and some others. But then this one has kind of grown on me. The more I've seen it, the more I've enjoyed it. And I don't know, it's I find it interesting. I find some of the choices a little weird. I don't know why they all have these big headgear on. I'm not sure what that is about. I haven't done much research about this yet, but in any case, so that's why I bought this one. It's just it grew on me, and I just wanted to be able to study it in person. It is very Rider-Waite, as you see. The faces are kind of freaky, you have to say. There's that one, but even just the regular faces, I find it very interesting. I don't know anything about art, first of all, so I'll say that. But I do find it interesting. To me, the faces don't really match with the rest of it. But anyway, okay, so that's the first question. The second question is, what's your decision process for buying a new deck? It's very simple. Ooh, pretty. I want it. There really isn't a decision process. For me, it's more of a gut feeling. This one probably took the longest to decide because, like I said, the artwork doesn't totally grab me like many of my other decks do. So this one took a little bit longer, more interest. It came over a slower period, but in general, it's the artwork that grabs me in some way. I feel a gut reaction, and I purchase it if I can afford it. There have been a few decks now that I had the opportunity to buy, and I was trying to be good. They've gone out of print, and now I regret not having them. But c'est la vie. Okay, the third question is, are there any deal breakers? What would prevent you from buying a deck? Yes, a couple of deal breakers for me. Not a lot that I can think of, but one would be if they were showing any sort of violence that related to children, or there's a deck out there that shows there's a suggestion of sexual violence. I don't like that. I wouldn't purchase that. The other deal breaker for me is if I find out that the deck creator in some way has ethics that are very different from mine. There's one deck out there that I've not purchased and I refuse to purchase because the deck creator was accused of rape and actually was heard to be what's the word? Sort of crowing about it. Like it was no big deal and he was the big man on campus. I will not put my money towards that. I'm sorry. You're just a bad person. So yes, those would be the deal breakers for me. What else do we have here? Question 4, Little White Book or Guidebook? I would like the option. The Little White Book is fine if it's very Rider-Waite based. I do like the guidebooks for some decks where they deviate from the Rider-Waite Smith meanings and symbolism. For example, if you have the Spirit Keepers tarot, that is not Rider-Waite Smith, and so a larger, more in-depth book would be much better. Same thing with my Solabusca tarot. The book that came with it is actually a guidebook, but it's not very it's not as good as it could be. It's not as useful as it could be. So for me, it depends. I would like the option. Question 5. Do you have any deck rituals? How do you break in a new deck? So for me, I don't have huge deck rituals. I will usually cleanse the deck by smoking either the garden sage that I have or rosemary. So I do a little bit of a cleansing, and then I typically will do I will go through every card one by one, sort of like this, and sort of look at each card in depth. Just kind of think about it. What's the symbolism that I see? How do I feel about the cards? So I do that on a card by card basis, and I will also do a deck interview. And for me, the deck interview, it's not like, if one of the questions is what kind of readings you like to do, and it says, it likes to do relationship readings, it's not that I won't use it. It's not that I won't use it for anything else other than relationship readings. For me, the interview is more about just the overall tone, like how do I read with this deck? And that I just find that that's a good benchmark for me. Okay, the next question is, have you ever been disappointed after getting a new deck or been pleasantly surprised? Yes, I have been pleasantly surprised by some decks. Um, Sometimes when you see the excuse me, when you see the deck interviews or deck reviews or walkthroughs online, they don't quite, depending on the lighting and if a filter has been applied or something, um, you're not quite getting the full picture of it. And I find that sometimes it's not until you have it actually in your hands that you see, whether you really resonate with it or not. So I have been pleasantly surprised where I've seen a deck in person. I saw walkthroughs and I would think, no, that's not for me. And then I see it in person and I have a completely different reaction. I'm not sure why that happens. And I've been disappointed as well. I backed a deck on Kickstarter or no, Indiegogo called Manuscript of the Initiations. It looked awesome on the creator's site. When I actually had it in my hands, I knew upon that initial flip through that it just wasn't for me. I was disappointed in a number of things. So it happens both ways, I guess, and it's not until you actually have it physically in front of you that I find you get a true read. Okay, question 7 is, do you interview the decks? Well, I think I talked about that already. I do interview them. I don't put a ton of weight into those interviews. I don't look back at them. It's more just an initial, how does this work for me? What's the tone of the advice that it's giving? Question 8. Do you have any decks I may be paraphrasing this because I didn't write them exactly down, but the question was about, do you use specific decks for specific purposes? And no, not really. I just use whatever deck I feel like using that day. Or if I've decided I'm going to use a specific deck for a week or so, then that's the deck I will use. I don't have a specific deck for relationship readings versus work versus something else. The next question 9. Do you differentiate between decks for yourself and decks for other people? I would have said no. I don't. Prior to getting 2 decks, one was the Dark Mansion Tarot, and the other is the Solabusca. So with the Dark Mansion Tarot, I will not use that for other people. I have used it for other people, and that just didn't feel good. I did it twice, and that just did not feel good. Reading for them in person, I don't know what it is. People touching them, and I didn't have a good feeling. And I don't have that feeling with other decks for some reason. And then my Solabusca Tarot, I may have spoken about this before, but when I saw that deck, and I didn't actually have to have it in my hands, but I had this gut punch feeling where I was like, oh my God, I absolutely have to have that. I don't know if it's an ancestral thing for me, but it was reinforced once I actually had the deck, and I had to wait for it for a while, and it was reinforced when I actually had it in my hand. I will not use that deck for reading for anyone else. That one is going to be just for myself, and I can't really provide a better explanation than that as to why it is. I know that my family tree does go back to Roman times, so maybe, like I said, maybe it's an ancestral thing, I don't know, but I'm going to be putting a lot of study into that deck, and I will only use it for myself. Okay, and the last question 10. What is one thing you wish deck creators would do or stop doing? A couple things. 1, borders. So I understand why they put borders on. And what I would like deck creators to do and deck publishers to do is to actually provide the option. So for example, the Mystic Fairy Tarot has an option with borders and an option without. I would very much like that, because some people do like the borders. I understand why the borders are there, to protect the artwork. But in a lot of cases, for me, that detracts from the experience, from my experience with using the tarot. So if I would love to have the option, I would love to have the option of the big fancy boxes, and with all the, I'm trying to look for one right now, but I would like to have the option for just having the cards. I don't need a big fancy box. I just need a tuck box like this is just fine, because I don't tend to keep my decks in these boxes anyways. So I don't care about the box. So regardless of how fancy it is, I'm not going to be keeping the deck in that box. And I don't care, but it costs money, and I would just really like the option for a more economical version. Maybe even without a box, maybe just shrink wrapped. I don't care. And then the fancier version, with the gilding and the fancy box and all that. That is something that I would very much appreciate. And the other thing is that I would really like for creators that deviate from one of the standard systems, whether it's Marseille or RWS or Thoth, whatever, if they deviate in any way, if they could actually provide commentary as to why they picked that specific artwork, why they chose it, what was going through their mind, what their design process was. I love hearing about information like that, and it gives me a better appreciation for the deck and for the artwork. So that is another thing I would love for them to do. And that is it, my friends. I'm going to try to keep this short and sweet. We've pretty much gotten to the end of this as well. Thank you so much to LadyKnight of Avalon for this tag. And I've been really enjoying watching the videos. So if you haven't done one yet, please do. If you have done one, thank you so much. Thank you very much to everyone for watching. And please don't forget to hit like and subscribe on the down bar below. And I will see you in my next video. Bye for now.